But cool. All right. We'll kick off. So, leading with clarity, not confusion. So, this is all around leadership and decision making and things you guys will be very adept at because you've been in the big corporate world as well as and big businesses. So, you have seen all of this stuff, but maybe not explained in an ops kind of way. I don't know. So, we'll see. So, it'll be interesting. So, leading with clarity, not confusion. So, ensuring you lead with clarity, avoiding chaos, empowering others, and getting stuff done. And so, always welcome and explain who I am just for the purposes of recording this and putting it into the ether. So I run a company called Optics, and Optics is an operations agency helping companies with everything from their systems and their processes and procedures, all of the good stuff that you'll see within this presentation as well, which is transformational in the business, but also really helps the person who's leading it be able to step back and enjoy what they've actually done, creating something. And why this topic will matter is exactly that, to be honest. It gives people that freedom and time to be able to let go of things, but also empower teams or empower people they're working with, maybe contracting, not necessarily having teams if you're on your own within a business as well. And so the key takeaways will be building a decision-making framework from here that scales, delegation playbooks for growing teams, and also embedding accountability across departments. And obviously, you guys can use this across any of thing you do when you're going into other companies. So why clarity is the new competitive advantage. Um, this is the best that ChatGPT could do this morning. So confusion leading to clarity. And a nice quote that I found as well, or knew of anywhere, I think, but it's from a lady called Brené Brown, and she's written a book called Dare to Lead, and then loads of TED Talks about leadership and how to be brave in doing so. And I think doing it this way is a little more brave as well, rather than being bullish and old school about it, but leading with clarity. And being clear is kind and unclear is unkind. So always being clear is just going to be way better for people. The cost of confusion. So this is from McKinsey. Managers spend 37% of their time resolving conflicts stemming from unclear roles and responsibilities. So where the roles aren't defined and people don't know what they're doing, they have to resolve those 37% of the time. And some quick maths on that. If they're being paid, for example, £75,000 a year, £288 a day, they're wasting £27,000, 750 quid a year. Even worse if they contract at £500 a day, which is pretty conservative, £185 a day. And in terms of time, 1.7 work days a week gone, just by not having clear roles and responsibilities. Knowledge workers spend 60% of their time on work about work, including searching for information and clarifying responsibilities. And that's come from Asana. So obviously Asana have a motive to make people stop doing work about work, and their platform's really good at that. Make sure you focus on what you actually need to do. So work about work is one of the biggest killers in terms of getting stuff done, and some quick maths all around that. If you're looking at a knowledge worker at 50 grand a year, for example, they actually are costing more than this roles and unclear roles and responsibilities. £30,000 a year just because they're doing work about work. And then in time, that's almost 3 days a week. So there's actually just 2 days a week of actually doing work, and there's 3 days a week of doing work about work, which is nuts. So if we're able to we get clearer on that, we're able to quickly start getting more stuff done, becoming more productive within a workspace as well, which is advantageous to everybody. But delays, disruption, duplication of work, frustration all come as another cost of confusion, basically. Making sure stuff doesn't get done, and we're just stuck in the quagmire of just getting nowhere, basically. The clarity equation. So consistency, which is clear processes and SOPs where they're really good ops, fun stuff comes. Transparency, sharing, understanding of who owns what and where that is. Again, very opsy. Accountability, follow through, and measurement all equals clarity, so where growth, scale, success will all start to come from. So this is one of the first things to have a look at in terms of how we can look to see where we can start to define where our tasks are sitting, where they need to be delegated and deleted. Delegation is probably the main one here for clarity, basically, but all of this gives us clarity. But this is called the Eisenhower matrix, and it is actually from the President Eisenhower, who derived it as well. And so what we do with this, with any of our clients all the time is we'll sit them down and go, right, where do your tasks sit within this matrix? So just which ones are important, urgent that you specifically have to do? And it doesn't have to be the leader, it can be anybody within this organization. Which of these are important and not urgent, therefore you can schedule them. Which are not important but still urgent, need to be done, so you need to delegate them to somebody else. And which are not important and not urgent, therefore you don't even need to be doing them. So why are you doing them? So you can just delete them, which is our favorite ones. And so just for some quick kind of examples of these, so important and urgent, we can see, like, for example, me putting this together and doing this is an important and urgent thing for me to do. So that falls into that bracket. Important and not urgent is like a newsletter to say to people this is going on, so I can schedule that. I can do that and then schedule the email as well. Not important and urgent is probably my really bad design of this presentation. Therefore, could have delegated that to somebody else. It is important, but I shouldn't be doing it. So it's not important that I should be doing it. But it is urgent to do. And not important and urgent could have been not procrastinating on Instagram this morning. Was trying to probably should have practiced this. Um, so yeah, some others here as well as some examples, some what strategy documents put together after audits. So this is basically around our fits and flow. So urgent is that I do that, doing the strategy documents, putting them together to give to the team. Not urgent but important are our ops audits. And so making sure that we schedule them in, they're not like life or death, we've got to do them today, but we schedule them in and we'll do them when they're important. Urgent, not important, as I said, designing this webinar, but not important and not urgent, not important, yeah, not important, not urgent was scrolling LinkedIn. So this is a really good example of you can just look at your week, wherever you put your tasks, and just start to schedule your tasks into this. I do that every single week. I put my tasks into a program called Motion, and it's an AI program which is basically a calendar, as well as like a task dump place. And I'll tag each one and then just make sure that I'm being diligent in terms of delegating the ones I don't need to do. So they're still urgent, but they're not important that I do them. And so I'll delegate those. And if ever got any delete ones, just take them straight out. They don't need to be there clogging up the whole thing. So yeah. Decision making models. So this is where we get into how we can actually start to make decisions. So we've got how we can get tasks out to delegate and give them to somebody else, whether that's to a team or to a contractor. Now we're going to look at how we can start to get these out. And we've got three models. So the first one here is a RACI model. So it's RACI matrix usually. RACI stands for responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. And so these are great for an all-rounder day-to-day projects and things like that. So responsible basically will be who's responsible for doing this. Accountable is who's accountable for the results of this. Consulted is who is consulted, who's asked for their input in this. And then informed is who's told about this thing. So this thing could be a project, this thing could be an individual task, it could be an idea, it could be anything really. Rapid. Rapid is great for making decisions, and so which are complex with many stakeholders. You have someone who recommends the decision or the idea is to make a decision. You'll need people who you think need to agree that. So people who will be making the decision basically. People who are going to perform it. So once you've agreed it, who's going to go and actually do it? Whose input do you need to make sure that this goes smoothly? And then at the end, you need to decide. So who's going to decide that for you? And then Daisy, I didn't have an emoji to put with this. I have no idea. So I just put some guy shrugging. But basically, this one is great for product teams, launches, and poignantly to people in the room marketing campaign. And so this one we have a driver, so someone who says we need to do this, an approver, so whoever's going to sign that off and say, yeah, that's good. Contributors who's going to put into this campaign, product, launch, whatever, and then whoever is told about that as well. But for the purposes of today, we're going to mostly focus around RACI, basically because it's the one that I use the most. And so this is just a really quick thing that I've put together for fix and flow projects for us, which just shows a RACI matrix. And so along this left-hand side, as you can see, we've got for our fix and flow project, we have someone called Nicola on our team. He's an ops manager. He's responsible for it. So he's responsible for going and doing and doing. He's accountable. So for the results of that, me and then Urosh, his business partner, consulted. Nicola will probably ask us for input because we've been there from the start of the client. And then we're informed just by being told what's going on, both of us as well. Or you can set it up like this. So you're going to have the names along the left-hand side and then the symbols. So Nicola is responsible, and then we're accountable, consulted, informed, or to keep longevity in terms of people moving around a business and to have it into SOPs much easier so you don't have to go and change them. You can put the job titles. And so often when I'm writing new structure and project process, that's what I'll do, which we've done recently, to be honest. We've done that with a company. They wanted a new sales structure completely. And so they have a whole racy structure of who does what at what task, which has been quite interesting because we've been able to make sure that they're not spending too much on each task. And we costed at one of their sales meetings, and it was costing them $3,000 per sales meeting. And so we said, okay, this sales meeting needs a racy who's actually going to be there, and we cut it down to like maybe $300 because there's only two people there because 10 people didn't need to be there, which was nuts. So more of a deep dive. So this is really what I do in a project basically, is break it down per task. And so I can run you through this really, really quickly. This is our fix and flow project. And so firstly, we'll have an ops audit where Nicola is informed, I'll do it, and I'm accountable. Urosh is consulted, and Ivana is our project manager internally. She's informed because she needs to track the project. Ops audit follow-up. So again, I'm responsible for doing that. Ivana is accountable for getting that out there, make sure that it's with the client. Everybody else is informed and consulted. Proposal, again, that's still with me. Responsible, accountable. Contract, still with me. Onboarding, I'm responsible for it, but now I've offboarded and delegated that task to Ivana. So that's where my delegation came in. So I'm up here, but then as you can see, my accountability is now coming to other people within this part. So fix and flow scope off to Urosh. So he will define that scope from what we've looked at up here, and he'll give that consultation to Nicholas. Say, is this okay to deliver? I'll be responsible overall for that client. Fix and flow delivery, again, accountable is Urosh, but responsible to do it is Nicola. So he'll be doing the whole of delivery. And then the feedback loop. So accountable is Ivana. She will ask for that feedback once we've actually delivered. Again, I'm responsible, but everybody else is consulted. And then we come in for a retro, which everybody is kind of consulted on, accountable as Urosh. So as you can see, before this was all me, just role responsible and accountable for all of this, which slowed these bits down because the more work we got in, I just couldn't deliver it. So this is just an example with one project manager in there, but we do have many, and so we can use the same model as a RACI to give that to everybody. But within here, obviously, we've got RACIs for the delivery, RACIs for scope, etc. So it just extrapolates all the way across. So in my style, I always do want to make it a little bit come to home a little bit. So I've split out how we make dinner at home. So Anna will always plan the meals. So she's responsible and accountable. She'll always consult me and inform me as to what we're going to have. She'll do the food shop. She'll always be responsible and accountable, but she will always consult me and inform me. I would always forget to tell her that we need stuff. So she is consulted and informed when I tell her, oh, we need this after she's actually done the shopping. She'll be fuming, but I'm responsible to do that, which I never actually get to do. She then cooks amazing meals. She's responsible and accountable for doing that, and I'm consulted, informed, and grateful for those incredible meals. And then if we have a meal retrospective, I'm responsible and accountable of always saying nice things about those meals, and she is consulted and informed of those lovely things. So, cheeky SOP for clarity. So we've got what we need to delegate. We understand where it needs to go in terms of the responsibility of someone coming to take that on. But we need a cheeky little SOP just to make sure that this is going to actually stick and be done in the right way. And I've just highlighted three tools here, which make making a really simple SOP simpler than ever. Like right now, you don't need to sit there with a 20-page document. You can literally have a one pager with a link to Loom or a link to Scribe, or just ask ChatGPT to do it. And it's done in like 5 minutes. We'll always just read through that because it might be wrong. The SOPs give repetitive tasks clarity, ensuring you get as near to the same result from a process every single time. And so that's like the main thing about SOPs. They will just give you that repetitive process done in the same way every single time, no matter who it is, hopefully. As I said, it doesn't have to be 20 pages. Ours are always tops 3 pages and they have four headings. What's the purpose of this SOP? Just to make sure that the person reading it knows why they're actually doing this. The steps of it, the owner, and then the review date. And the review date is very key because people or tools might change, or the way you do stuff might change as well. So there's a really quick SOP. Delegation playbook. So when we're teaching leaders who need to get out their own kind of loads of tasks, how to do this, often very, very, very scared to do it. So one of my older clients, he owns a UX UI design agency and he's a control freak. He is a designer. He loves to be creative. Anything he does is amazing, and I can attest to that. But he was so nervous about giving it to somebody else to do because it's his name, it's his brand, and he wanted it to be perfect. And he was spending so much more time having to go and correct stuff he thought than just letting people get on with it. But this is how we kind of worked through that. And so we did things like the Eisenhower matrix. He already knew what he needed to do. But what we did was inform. So telling people, this is what I'm going to give to you. How does that sound to you? Like this task. And if there's any glimmer of, oh shit, it's probably not the right person or they're not the right idea, or just need to go and find some another contractor somewhere or something like that. So find the right person, inform them, and then if their response is great, then amazing. Involve them. So maybe a couple of days after, remember that thing I wanted you to take over. This is how I do it. Give them that little SOP that we've written, give them a Loom video scribe, or just let them sit with you if they're in the office. Let them give you any feedback and empower them to kind of say, well, actually, I'd probably do it in this way, which is fantastic. Why not? Um, that SOP then is delivered or changed if they've got feedback, which is actually good and it will help them do it in a better way. Empower them. So I think you got this. Let's check in next week on how you're getting on. Fairly updated RACI. So we can have a RACI for this task and say, here's your responsibility now. Here's where it sits within the whole of the task structure. So get on with it. And how to embed that accountability. And so building a culture of follow through. So we give the responsibility, we check in, we measure that, we celebrate, or we create an action plan if there's something that needs to be changed. We do a retrospective in terms of what went well, what didn't go so well, even if it is good. And then we empower them some more. And so we say, and basically from a retrospective, you'll get actions. And so those actions to change can be an empowerment to say, okay, we think we need to do this better. Here's the changes. You can go and do those, which gives extra responsibility. And so that's all taking away from your plate in terms of the leader, but also giving more clarity in terms of who owns what, and people are owning more, therefore there's more clarity throughout the whole thing. But cool, David, how do we do all of this? How do we track it all through these kind of tools? And so we use these quite often with clients, obviously, through Asana, ClickUp, Monday.com, Google Sheets if we have to, Trello, but even CRM systems. You can track all of these things where you're giving the extra responsibility to people through this, because they already have things like the visibility of where tasks are, the alignment of you're able to go and see where things are at any one moment in time rather than having to ask. They have clear owners because you can add their initials to it and then they're the owner. And there's clear accountability because you can set due dates. And so these tasks already have all these things built in to be able to develop that clarity through the whole of the business from day dot once you're starting to want to get clarity as a leader. All of those things, as I say, adds clarity. To putting it all together, we prioritize decisions through the Eisenhower matrix. We define ownership through RACI. We document very simply through really quick SOPs, and we delegate smartly and then close the loop. And that is everything. So this is where we can book for any pre-ops audits to go through any of this kind of stuff. All of these graphics are made by the wonderful Vicky Smith, which I think we all know. Um, and so, yeah, that is me kind of just on time.
Look at you.